You come home expecting peace after a stressful day, but instead you find a sleek, unfamiliar SUV sitting in your garage, like it's always belonged there. The overhead door is raised, revealing the vehicle like a prize on a game show stage. You step out of your car, heart hammering. Could it be a friend's car? A family member's? No, nobody told you they'd be dropping by. Then a tiny detail chills your spine. An empty coffee cup perched on the hood, still dripping with condensation. Someone is here right now. You look around, feeling your skin prickle. The quiet suburban street of Doe Estate seems too perfect. Lawn sprinklers click, neighbors stroll with dogs, and the evening sun casts long shadows across the pavement. Everything appears normal, yet your own garage is under siege. You step forward, unsure if you're facing a thief, a trick, or a neighbor's bizarre assumption. Little do you know, the reality is stranger than any guess. It involves Karen Johndoe, the loud, overbearing HOA president who does what she pleases. Tonight, though, her usual power trip will spiral into a shocking confrontation, one that locks her in a place she never imagined she'd be trapped. And by the end of this story, you'll see exactly how far people will go when their sense of entitlement collides with the wrong homeowner's determination. Buckle up. This tale starts with a car in the wrong place and ends with an entire HOA on the brink of chaos. But before we dive deeper, smash that like button and hit subscribe to join our community of real-life drama seekers. Also, comment below where you're watching from. We're building an awesome audience from all over the world, and we'd love to hear your city or country. Your engagement helps our channel grow and share unbelievable stories like this one with more people. Ready? Let's do this. Raph's heart pounds as he stares at the SUV sitting arrogantly in his garage, its glossy black surface gleaming under the dim lights. His hands tighten into fists. Who in their right mind would do this? His home, his safe space, had been invaded. His eyes dart around the garage, scanning for anything else out of place. He rushes through the house, checking the front door. Locked. Windows? Sealed. No sign of forced entry. But the place feels wrong, like someone has waltzed in and made themselves comfortable. A cold wave of unease crashes over him. His stomach churns. His gut tells him this isn't just a mistake, it's deliberate. Then he notices them. Footprints, leading away from the SUV, out toward the driveway. Before he can even fully process the violation, a shrill, entitled voice pierces the air behind him. "Oh, hey, don't freak out. It's just my car." Raph whirls around, his phone gripped tightly in his hand, prepared to call the police if necessary. And there she stands, Karen Johndoe, short, sharp bob haircut, oversized designer sunglasses perched on her smug face, arms crossed, hip jutted out, exuding pure arrogance. The queen of the Doe Estate Homeowners Association, known for her unnecessary fines and her insufferable sense of control. Raph feels the anger claw up his throat. "Karen," he says slowly, his voice dangerously even, "you parked your car in my garage." Karen lets out an exaggerated sigh as if he's the one being difficult. "Obviously. I had to run an errand and your driveway is sloped. My SUV could roll backward. This seemed easier." Raph's jaw clenches. "So you opened my garage door and just made yourself at home?" She scoffs, her lips twisting into a smirk. "Well, it was already open. Technically, that's not breaking in." His vision blurs with frustration. "Karen, that's called trespassing." She rolls her eyes. "Oh, please. If anything, you should be thanking me. I closed the door after I parked, to keep out stray animals." Raph's fists tighten. He inhales deeply, trying to stop himself from yelling. "Karen, you had no right to do this. If I did this to you, you'd have me arrested." Karen tilts her head, her smug grin widening. "Oh, don't be so dramatic, Raph. You're making a big deal out of nothing. I'll move it later. What's the harm?" "The harm," Raph grits out, "is that this is my property, my garage, my home. You have no authority here." Karen lets out a barking laugh. "Authority? Sweetie, I run the HOA. I have more authority here than you do." Raph's blood turns to fire. "The HOA doesn't own my house. You don't own my house." Karen waves a manicured hand dismissively. "Semantics. You should really be more neighborly. I mean, considering how your lawn is always a disgrace." Raph flinches, the insult hitting like a slap. "Excuse me." "Oh, come on, Raph," she sneers. "Your grass is patchy, your garbage cans are always in the wrong spot, and don't even get me started on that thing you call a mailbox." She wrinkles her nose as if the mere thought of his property offends her. "Honestly, you should be thanking me for raising the property value of this place." Raph takes a step closer, his patience dangerously thin. "Karen, if you don't move your car out of my garage right now, I will call the police." Karen clicks her tongue, shaking her head as if he's a misbehaving child. "Ugh, men are so emotional." "Fine, I'll move it later." Raph stares at her, his jaw tightening. "No, you'll move it now." Karen smirks, adjusting her sunglasses. "I said later, try not to be so uptight." And with that, she turns on her heel and struts away, leaving Raph standing there, seething. His fingers tighten around his phone. Fine. If she wanted to play this game, she had no idea who she was dealing with. Little does she know, her day of reckoning is coming sooner than she thinks. Raph clenched his jaw, forcing a calm he didn't feel. "Karen, now would be a good time to move your SUV. 4 hours. That's how long it had been." And now she was casually strolling past his house like nothing happened. Karen Johndoe didn't even slow down. Instead, she tossed her hair over her shoulder and smirked. "I told you later. Don't you have something better to do? Or are you just obsessed with me?" Rafe's fingers twitched at his side. "It's in my garage, Karen. Not parked on the street. My garage." She let out an exaggerated sigh, shaking her head. So dramatic. I didn't know you were this desperate for attention. Maybe that's why your house looks like it belongs to a hermit." Raph exhaled through his nose, reining in his patience. Before he could say another word, Karen turned on her heel and sauntered back into her own house across the street. She didn't even wait for his response. Raph's phone buzzed, drawing his attention. A text from his boss, a reminder about his week-long work trip. Tonight, perfect timing. He ran a hand through his hair, glancing toward his garage. Karen's SUV still sat there like a smug, uninvited guest. He should call a tow truck, or the police. But then an idea crept in, one that made the corners of his mouth twitch. What if he just locked the garage door from the inside, blocked any remote signals? That way she'd actually have to come talk to him if she wanted her precious car back. Unbeknownst to Raph, Karen had other plans. Later that evening, she strutted into his garage again, rummaging through the SUV for a charging cable or maybe her purse. She barely gave a thought to the audacity of her actions. She was Karen Johndoe. She did what she wanted. With her iced coffee in one hand, she leaned into the back seat, humming to herself. So lost in her own arrogance, she didn't notice that she left the door to Raph's house slightly ajar. Meanwhile, Raph was busy throwing the last of his clothes into his suitcase. He didn't see her, didn't hear her. When he was done, he walked straight to the garage's interior latch, flipping it into the locked position. Then he secured the side door and the door connecting the garage to his house. A final glance. Everything set. He grabbed his keys, set the alarm, and drove off in his second car, heading for the airport. Karen, now sipping her drink, finally climbed back into the driver's seat and reached for the remote to open the garage door. Nothing happened. She frowned, pressed it again. Still nothing. Karen's smirk vanished. She hopped out, hurrying to the side door, expecting it to swing open. Instead, she slammed into it with a solid thunk. Locked. Her head snapped toward the door leading into Raph's house. She rushed over, grabbed the handle, and twisted, deadbolted. A sickening realization trickled through her veins like ice. Karen pounded on the door, her voice shrill. "Raph, this isn't funny. Let me out!" Silence. She turned back to the SUV, jabbing the remote furiously. It still wouldn't budge. Her breath hitched. Raph was gone, and she was trapped. At first, Karen thinks, surely I can just wait an hour or two. Rafe will come back. She pulls out her phone to text her husband, Liam, but she can't get a decent signal in the enclosed space. She tries to dial 911, but the call fails before it connects. She paces around the garage, noticing random boxes, gardening tools, and leftover paint cans. The place smells like motor oil and stale dust. She tries opening the overhead door from the inside, but Raph's manual lock is jammed tight. He really meant business. A couple of hours pass. She's downed half her iced coffee, and the cool ice has melted into watery slush. The temperature in the garage starts to rise, and she's sweating. She peeks through a small window on the side wall and sees neighbors calmly living their lives. A teen mowing the lawn, a dog walker on the sidewalk. But nobody glances her way. She's too embarrassed to scream for help. Plus, she's Karen Johndoe, the unstoppable HOA president. She can't let the whole neighborhood see her like this. Meanwhile, Liam is kicked back at home, figuring Karen's at the salon or grabbing lunch with her best friend, Alina. He's glad she's not around to nag him about the chores he's been putting off. No one suspects Karen is actually trapped, a prisoner in a suburban garage just across the street. Evening arrives. Karen is both hungry and exhausted. Her phone battery is low. She tries to text Raph. Karen's text: "Raph, let me out. This is illegal. Help." No response. At midnight, she searches her SUV for food. She finds a crumpled bag of chips and a protein bar from who knows when. There's a half bottle of water rolling on the floor. The garage is silent except for her occasional sniffles. She tries not to panic, but the walls feel like they're closing in. She awakens cramped in the back seat, stiff neck, pounding headache. She tries the garage door again, still locked. She pounds on the walls in frustration. "Somebody, help!" But no one outside seems to hear. That's when she notices a strange flicker of light near the garage ceiling, a security camera Raph installed. Is it recording? Has it been watching this whole time? She can't be sure, but the thought that she might be on film fuels her rage. Across the street, her friend Alina starts to wonder why Karen hasn't replied to her texts. She knocks on Karen's door, but Liam answers, shrugging. She's probably busy. Alina senses something is off, but doesn't press it. Just when Karen thinks it can't get worse, she hears a strange scratching. She flips on her phone's flashlight, shining it around the garage. It's a possum crawling along the rafters, glaring down at her. Karen screams, lurching backward against the SUV. Terrified, she tries to scare it away by banging a broom handle. The possum hisses, then scurries off into a corner. Her heart races. This is no glamorous spa day. She's living a miniature horror show, and it's about to get even more stressful. Raph's plane touches down, and the moment he switches off airplane mode, his phone explodes with notifications. Dozens of missed messages, all from Karen. His lips curl into a smirk as he skims through them, each more frantic than the last. Karen's latest message is, "You trapped me! I can't believe this! I will sue you! Open the garage door now!" Raph leans back in his seat, suppressing a chuckle. Did she seriously stay in there the entire time? The thought alone is absurd. He imagines her pacing like a caged animal, her entitled shrieks echoing through the garage. On the drive home, he weighs his options. Call the police and let them deal with her tantrum, open the garage and watch the meltdown unfold in real time, or simply let her sweat a little longer. The last option is tempting, but curiosity wins out. Raph finally pulls into his driveway. The garage door remains sealed, and a part of him wonders if she's even still inside. But the moment he presses the remote, the door groans and lifts. A warm flood of sunlight spills into the space, illuminating a sight so ridiculous he has to bite the inside of his cheek to keep from laughing. Karen Johndoe stumbles forward, blinking against the sudden brightness. Her once perfectly styled bob is now a frizzy disaster. Her designer clothes wrinkled, her face streaked with exhaustion and pure, unfiltered rage. Karen, voice raw, shaking with fury. "You maniac! I've been locked in here for days!" Raph crosses his arms, feigning concern. "Karen, you parked in my garage without permission. I told you to move. You broke in. I had no idea you decided to make yourself comfortable before I locked up." Karen's hands shake as she points an accusatory finger at him. You did this on purpose. You let me rot in here like some kind of prisoner. You're a sick, twisted little man." Raph pulls out his phone and casually taps the screen. "Oh, let's check the footage." He plays the security clip showing Karen strutting into the garage after he explicitly told her to leave. The moment the door shut behind her, she had been too busy texting, likely complaining about him, to realize she had just locked herself in. Karen's fury momentarily falters, replaced by a flicker of panic. She clenches her teeth. "That video doesn't prove anything. You could have let me out, but no, you wanted me to suffer. Do you even know who I am? I am the HOA president." Raph raises an eyebrow, unimpressed. And you think that puts you above the law? Karen, you trespassed. You broke into my garage, and now you're throwing a tantrum because your own entitlement bit you in the ass. Before Karen can shriek another word, an engine rumbles up the driveway. A sleek car skids to a halt, and out jumps Liam, Karen's husband. His face is pale, his expression torn between confusion and sheer relief. Liam, frantic. "Karen, where have you been? Alina said you weren't home for days." Karen, sensing an opportunity, jabs a finger toward Raph. "He locked me in his garage. I almost died in there." Liam turns to Raph, confusion evident in his eyes. But Raph simply holds up his phone. "Watch this." He replays the security footage. Liam's expression shifts as the truth plays out in front of him. His wife, ignoring every warning. His wife waltzing inside like she owned the place. His wife sealing her own fate. By the time the video ends, Liam lets out a long, exhausted sigh. He looks at Karen, his face clouded with embarrassment and frustration. Liam, quietly, "Karen, what the hell?" Karen's face twists in fury, but for the first time she has no words, no excuses, no power. Raph leans against his car, arms still crossed. "Now, Liam, I'd love to press charges for trespassing, but maybe you want to handle this mess before I call the cops?" Karen's breath catches. She looks at Liam, pleading silently. But Liam, for once, doesn't rush to her defense. Instead, he rubs his temples, looking utterly drained. Liam, defeated. "Karen, get in the car!" Karen sputters, but Liam cuts her off with a firm glare. Without another word, she stomps to the car, slamming the door shut. Liam lingers for a moment, then looks back at Raph. I'm sorry. I'll handle her." Raph smirks. "You do that. And maybe remind her that breaking into people's garages isn't part of the HOA's jurisdiction." As Liam drives off, Raph watches with satisfaction. Karen's reign of unchecked entitlement just took a massive hit, and he had the perfect footage to ensure she never forgot it. A few days later, Karen tries to spin the story her way. She calls an emergency Doe Estate HOA meeting, hoping to blame Raph for harassment or false imprisonment. But guess who else shows up, armed with the same security footage? Raph. Neighbors pack the small community center, buzzing with curiosity. Karen stands at the front, face flushed, while Raph calmly sets up a projector. Raph plays the video showing Karen strolling into his garage, ignoring him, and then rummaging around. He fast-forwards to her frantic attempts to open the door from the inside, including her meltdown while cursing Raph. The entire room erupts. People are stunned at Karen's nerve. A neighbor named Clara stands up and says she once caught Karen scanning her porch for possible violations. Another man, Tom, points out that Karen has repeatedly fined him for trivial issues, like the color of his mailbox. The tide turns quickly. Instead of Raph being on trial, Karen is the one in hot water. The board members, including her best friend Alina, look deeply uncomfortable. The HOA president has become the neighborhood's biggest liability. Karen Johndoe, voice trembling, "Raph knew I was inside. He left on purpose." She tries desperately to twist the narrative, but the footage reveals enough to cast doubt on her claims. Besides, no one can ignore that she broke into his property first. The board calls for a vote. In a dramatic turn, they decide that Karen should be removed from her leadership position, effective immediately, pending a full investigation. She's slapped with a formal complaint for trespassing, and an apology letter is drafted for Raph on behalf of the HOA. Karen stands there, face pale, as her neighbors glare or openly mock her. The empire she built through intimidation has finally collapsed. Days later, the official notice arrives at Karen's mailbox. She's fined by the HOA for trespassing on a member's property. She's stripped of her president role. She must apologize in writing to Raph. Her phone buzzes with texts from neighbors who once tiptoed around her. Now they send sarcastic messages like, "Need another garage to crash in?" Raph breathes a sigh of relief. He never intended for such a dramatic fallout, but Karen forced his hand. The best part? He barely had to lift a finger. Karen trapped herself through her own arrogance. He returns to a peaceful life, secure in the knowledge that if Karen tries something again, the entire community is against her. Most neighbors are grateful to Raph for standing up to her. Some even bring him homemade cookies in gratitude for exposing the HOA tyranny. One morning, Raph finds a letter in his mailbox, no return address. Inside is a single line. "This isn't over." There's no name, but the handwriting matches Karen's. She may be down, but apparently she isn't giving up her grudge anytime soon. Raph shows it to Liam, who quietly promises to keep Karen in check. He's mortified by what she did and doesn't want more trouble. Whether Karen will let it go remains a mystery. For now, Doe Estate returns to its usual calm. Lawn sprinklers hiss in the morning sun, neighbors gossip over fences, and mail carriers drop off packages without fear. But beneath the surface, everyone remembers the day Karen Johndoe's SUV got locked in the wrong garage, and how pride and entitlement led to her downfall. Enjoyed watching karma catch up to Karen? Like, subscribe and share this video with friends who love seeing bullies get their just desserts. Don't forget to comment where you're watching from. We read every comment and love connecting with you. Thank you for sticking around to the end. Remember, no matter how powerful someone pretends to be, overconfidence can be their undoing. Stay sharp, stand your ground, and we'll see you in the next jaw-dropping story.